Hey guys. Um I was already like halfway done recording a video for you guys and then my laptop just like I guess I accidentally pushed a button and it made it reset. Like the whole other video is gone. So anyways, hello, I'm back. So what I want to talk to you guys today about is domestic violence. Um there I want to start off by saying domestic violence does not only happen to females, it also happens to males. They I feel like guys they don't really want to get the help. And when you look around like statistically, there are only female domestic violence shelters. There I have not heard of a domestic violence shelter just for men because it happens to women so much. I'm sure it happens to men the same amount, but they refuse to get the help. They refuse. They'll try to get out the relationship or whatever, but they wouldn't. Is not reported. Most of the times, is not reported. Anything that can happen to a female can happen to a male besides pregnancy. All these stories about, oh, this is the first man's guy to be pregnant. Negative. That man had to once upon a time been a female in order to be pregnant because you need to have a female reproductive system. So there's that. So like I said, anything that can happen to a woman besides pregnancy and periods and all that stuff can happen to a guy. A man can be raped, just like a female can be raped. But guys are like so shy of reporting this. Like they won't go and say anything to anybody or get the help about it because they feel like I'm a man, I shouldn't be going through this or whatever the case may be. I just want to say, man or woman, if you're in a domestic violence situation, get out. Like, no, and that clicking sound is my pen. So sorry. No matter how much a person tells you they're gonna change, 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna happen, and it's not worth staying in that relationship of being abused, like whether it's verbally, mentally, or physically. Like abuse is abuse, guys. Like who I don't know who wants to stay in an abusive relationship, and I feel like I can touch on this subject for the simple fact that I've been in an abusive relationship. Like I was I was with this guy, we were engaged and blah blah blah. We were gonna make it work. Like I was determined. I'm the type of person who like I am determined to make stuff work. Like I don't know why I don't like giving up so easily. I am determined to make stuff work. So it started with like play hitting, like a hit here, a hit there. Like that's something that you should never like play with anyway. Like if play wrestling, okay, fine, I guess. But really you should never put your hands on one another like to harm the other person. So for me to leave this person, it literally took him to pull his gun on me. He pulled his gun on me and he had a bullet in the chamber. His gun was off safety because I did not want to get in the car with him. I told him no. Like I was at that moment, like because things happened before then. Like he picked me up, he slammed me on the floor, and all this other bunch of stuff. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I was like, I had enough. Like I'm not going through this no more. You're not. No. Like this just is not happening. No. So we were in Florida and we were behind Motel 6 when this happened. He had just got off work, blah blah. He was in the army. He went AWOL. I left with him like a dummy. I left with him. That was bothering me. I left with him or whatever. And long story short, well, nope, not even long story short. So I ended up having to call my mom and like talking to her and well, my sister answered. And I was like, I knew my nephew did not go to the doctors, but I kept asking her like, oh, how was like so and so's doctor's appointment, blah blah blah. And she was like, what are you talking about? He didn't go to the doctor, blah blah blah. Luckily I didn't have the phone on speaker. because then my ex at the time would have heard that and been like, oh, like, what are you doing, blah, blah. Like, he had the whole, I got in the car with him because he put the gun to my head and was like, get in the car, I'm not playing with you, I will shoot. I screamed and not one person came out their room to help me. And I remember when I was walking towards the front of the hotel, or the motel. I was walking towards the motel to go get help. He, before I started walking, he put, I guess his car was in neutral park or something. He was about to drive off and he hit the gas to where it made like that roaring noise, like you're about to pull off. And I literally thought he was about to hit me with his car. So I jumped behind the Motel 6-9 and I just saw him speed off. I was like, okay, he's leaving, like, I'm good. So I started like limping because mind you, he picked me up, slammed me on the floor, and I like tried to stop myself with my hand and my leg. And I just like hurt my ankle when I did that. So I'm going, and I see a guy come out his room. And I remember seeing my ex, like, you know, when someone's car going reverse, like you can see the lights. So I asked him, I was like, hey, do you see a guy coming? And I was like freaking out. And this man looked at me and told me no and went in his room. I don't know if my ex showed him the gun or what happened, but he told me no. And he went back in his room and he closed the door. And as soon as he closed the door, boom, my ex pops from around the corner. I'm like, God. And he's like, at this point, I didn't know he had his gun on him. Because I remember earlier that day, I knew he owned a gun. But I remember earlier that day, because I know you're not supposed to have like your gun loaded in your car. So while he was working, I had the car. So I took his gun. I took the magazine out. I left the gun in the glove compartment and I went and I put the magazine inside the trunk. And I closed it. So I'm walking. He pops from around the corner. He's like, Stephanie, come with me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll take you to a shelter. I'll take you somewhere. Just let me help you. I was like, no, I don't want your help. Like, you hurt me for the last time. Like, physically, the only person who can help me at this point is the police. Well, when I said that, that was clearly the wrong thing to say because he was already triggered. So I guess I triggered him more, and I got closer to the front, and he pushed me up on a car, and he pulled the gun out. I won't forget. He had a gray sweater on that says engineers on it, and the letters were black and had like a red building on it. And he was like, he pulled it from his little like pocket area. And he was like, I'm not playing with you, Stephanie. I will shoot you. And that's when I heard him cock the gun back and all this other stuff. And he put it to my head. And he like kind of hit me with it like that a little bit. But at that time, it really didn't hurt. And I screamed and said no very loudly. And nobody came out to help me, like at all. So I guess like, okay, fine. Whatever. I got in the car with him. And he had me like, he was driving up and down. Can't remember the name of the highway. But he was driving up and down. It's in Kissimmee. It's across the street from Old Town, and then the motel is right across the street from that. So in between there, he was driving me up and down, and back to the point where I called my mom. I called my mom. My sister answered, and I kept telling her like, "Hey, how was his appointment? Blah blah blah." And my sister kept saying he didn't have an appointment today. What are you talking about? And I was like, "Oh my gosh, go ask mom. Like, how was the appointment?" Because she must have took him. And then my mom was like, you dummy, like there's something wrong with her. Like she's trying to talk in code or something. At that point, my mom takes the phone and asks me, like, is there something wrong? Is he hitting you? Because I told my mom when like it started getting out of hand. Like one time he like went like this to my cheek so hard. Like I'm missing some teeth in the back. And he made like my gums, like, I guess cut open a little bit on the inside. To where it hurted to eat or do anything, like, because that's how bad the little cuts inside hurt. And I told her, like, about the time he choked me, slapped me, and all this other stuff. And so my mom knew something was wrong. She already knew he was physically abusing me. So she was asking me questions, yes or no, and I was answering them. And she was like, he owns a gun, right? And I was like, yeah. She was like, does he have it? And I was like, yeah. Like, and I was trying so hard not to cry because he was in the car with me, he was driving, he still had the gun pointed at me. The reason she asked me about if he has his gun pointed at me because my nephew happened to be saying boom boom in the back. And I was like, no, Devon, like, don't say that. That's not nice. Blah, blah, blah. And That's when my mom figured it out. Called my uncle and blah, blah, and I managed to talk my ex and take me to the hospital. Even though he threatened me, like, I know where your grandparents live, my family's going to get the green light on them if you send me to jail, blah, blah, blah. So he gets me to the hospital, and I was like playing it cool. I was like, are you coming inside with me? And he was like, well, if you want me to, but I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go check myself in, and then you can come in, and ask him to take you to my room. As soon as he unlocked the door and let me out the car, like, I limped into the hospital so fast, and I asked for help. I was like, he has a gun, he's going to kill me. They were trying to calm me down, and I didn't know the cops were following us. They were telling us from a distance. And whenever he got out the car, I didn't see this happen, but to my understanding, they knew he had a gun on him. They made him get down to his knees, and they had their guns drawn on him. The hospital took me into this room, and like they flipped some switch or something, and like nobody could see inside of my room. It was like I had like a lot of cops coming to me and taking my statements, taking pictures of any marks that I had, and all this other stuff, and asking me if I want to press charges and a whole lot of stuff. I personally thought he was already going to get in trouble because he went AWOL from the Army. My dumb tail did not press charges on him. I actually did the opposite and did everything in my power for them to not press charges on him, for the state not to pick it up. That was very stupid on my half, I think. But, I mean, I'm away from him now, and I hope he doesn't do this to another female. What else? If somebody claims to love you and they put their hands on you, they do not love you. Like, that's not love. Love should not hurt. You need to speak up, say something, get help. Like, there is help all around. Like, and the thing is, if you're going to go through it getting the help, or you're going to call I know I'm not going to say most people, but I know some people who, like, have called the cops on their significant other because, like, I used to live with a friend. And her friend had a kid, and her boyfriend or whatever at the time, like, was always hitting her. And one time that kid came running to my friend's house and was like, that bastard's hitting my mom again. But like, the kid was freaking out. So it must have been really bad when he came to where we were at, you know, crying that his mom needs help. We called the cops on him and everything. And then next thing we know, when the cops got there, she's like, oh no, blah, 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 he didn't hit me, we need to mind our business and all this other stuff. And that's where it comes in being hard, being the friend who, like, you know your friend is getting beat on at home and you interfere to try to help them, then you're the bad person. Like, you should never got involved, is what they're going to say. Even though you're trying to save their life, because it starts with a push, then it goes slapping, punching, hair pulling, all this other bunch of stuff. And it could be a female doing this to a guy. Like, it happens. Like, I promise it happens to guys too. And you'll go to, like, a domestic violence shelter, and they will, if you don't have, like, family to go to or whatever, blah, 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 they'll send you to a domestic violence shelter. And you cannot give this location out. It's for the safety of first of all, yourself, the other residents who are there, and the staff. Like, there is nothing wrong with going to get help, especially if you're being abused. Like, I know I didn't like it, but I was the type of person who was like, no, we're going to make this work, blah, blah, blah. He's going to change, he's going to get better. No, they do not get better. Like, it's going to get worse. And everybody has their breaking point where they're like, you know what? I almost lost my life because of him or her. It's time for me to go. Like, I can't do this no more. It's time to go. Don't let it get to that point, because there's so many people who don't make it out of that. He almost took my life, or she almost took my life. Like, no. You end up in the ground or cremated somewhere. Not somewhere, but, you know, you end up cremated or buried in the ground somewhere. And then it's not fair, especially if you have kids. Like, I feel like if a man can hit a woman, he will have no problem putting his hands on a kid. Like, at all. Point blank, period. There's a difference between disciplining your child when your child does something. And trust me, there's a lot of kids need discipline out here because, bro, no. No. They are too out of freaking control. But, again, there's a difference between disciplining your kid and beating your kid. Or the female beating the kid, or the father, whatever, beating the kid. So that takes me to the whole, if he can hit a woman, he can hit a kid. Point blank, period. Like, there's nothing else to that. Yeah, so just please go get help. Like, you can call, like, the freaking 911 and pretend you're calling someone else or something, like placing an order, anything that can put your address out there for them to come get you. Or they can even like pinpoint it off like the little tower thingy McJigs or whatever they're called. They can pinpoint your address out, or just call them, and that's kind of hard to say. But like, you can call them and put the phone down, and you don't have to necessarily say anything to someone, just put the phone down where they can hear the commotion going on. And the cops would, like, they'll come. Like, I remember a situation where, I'm not going to say exactly everything, but I was in a situation where I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to call 911. I called 911 and the phone cord, this was like with the house phone. The phone cord was pulled out of the wall, but 911 managed to track the number down and, like, started heading to my location where I was at. So by that time, I already had got out and I was, like, walking already. Sorry guys, I keep looking outside because there's like just a lot of activity going on right there. What else can I say? Comment below if you have like any motivational words for anybody who can be in a domestic violence like situation and you got out of it, or you can even comment and ask like help tips or whatever in your area. Like, if you're scared to do the Google search, like to find out like where your nearest domestic violence shelter is, call 911. They will get it for you. They will come and they will take you there. I promise they will. 911 is not. If you call 911 and tell them, hey, I'm being beat or whatever, I need to get out, I'm in this situation, there's kids in this situation, and let them know, like, if there's a weapon in the house, blah, blah, blah. Even if there's no weapon involved or there's no kids involved, it's just you and your significant other, and this person is beating you, hitting you, whatever, call 911. Like, I can't stress that enough. Call them and get out of the situation. They're not going to leave you there. You tell them you want to press charges. They will make the other person go, or the other person will get locked up, my back, or whatever the situation is. But they're not going to be like, oh, okay, there's a domestic violence dispute, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's a case number, call in the morning, or here's a case number, whatever. They will make sure you are safe. Because I feel like it would be pretty stupid if they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go out, I'll give them a card, whatever, and leave them in the house with the person who's beating them. No, that's not going to happen. And most times, like, people who don't get out, like, if they don't end up dead, the other person will end up dead, because one person can only take so much. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I told them, like, because he was like, oh, we were talking about his daughters. And he was telling me how he knows, like, for sure one of his daughters would never be in that situation, but the other one he's not sure about. I was like, don't be so sure, because, like, I know how to fight. And, like, my uncles and my older sister, when I was younger, like, we always used to box and, like, fight and stuff. And also, even, like, with my brothers, we'll, like, play fight as kids and stuff. So, yes, I know how to fight. But a man will always overpower a woman, especially when he's mad. Like, a woman, yes, she gets strong when she's mad. But a man will always be 2 times stronger. Like, I don't care what anybody says, regardless of what, he will always be 2 times stronger. I don't know why it's like that. It's just like that. Unless you're one of them really, really strong, like, bodybuilder women or whatever, who's always in the gym and stuff. Then maybe, because they look pretty strong. I wouldn't want to go toe to toe with one of them. No. What else? Okay, well, I think that is all for now. So, peace out. And comment below. And let me know some of y'all's stories that we can share with other females, some tips. Females, or I'm sorry, I keep saying females, but like females or male. Maybe we can help somebody get out this situation. Yeah. Bye.